Hello, everybody. It's Duke and Kelly with Kelly Clark. I hope that all of you are well, healthy, and safe. I know that many of our clients around the country are sheltering in place right now. You're at home. You're concerned about your families. You're concerned about your own physical well being, but you're also concerned about your businesses. And what do we do now that many of us that are small business entrepreneurs, that our businesses have been forced by government law or regulation to shut down, close our doors? What, if anything, can we do in order to replace that income and the profits that we're losing in connection with our businesses? So this video today, we're going to talk about business interruptions insurance. Business interruption insurance, or sometimes it's called business loss, business income insurance. This is a type of insurance that covers the loss of income that one individual or an entity suffers after a disaster. So the disaster doesn't have to be COVID-19. It could be a tsunami, or it could be a tornado, or it could be any form which historically we've recognized as like an act of God, something that is not foreseeable, that you didn't cause. That's generally accepted by people as being a disaster that would trigger this idea that you'd be able to claim some sort of business interruption insurance. It's basically income that will be covered and provided to you that is related to this disaster, closing your business, or if your business is closing because it's having to rebuild after a disaster. So in the context of what we're currently experiencing in our country, you may not even know that you have business interruption insurance. Many of you, and we're not just talking about commercial real estate holdings, you may be the owner of a small business. I spoke with some clients recently who hadn't even thought about the fact that they probably did have business interruption insurance, that their landlord had imposed on them by virtue of the lease obligations. So many of you that are small business entrepreneurs around the country, you may actually in fact have business interruption insurance. And what type of coverage of business losses? Like, what does it cover? What could it potentially cover? Well, it could potentially cover a lot of different things, fall into a lot of different types of categories, including profits, right? Operating expenses, meaning the expenses that your landlord or that utility companies are expecting to see on a monthly basis. It could provide coverage for relocation expenses or temporary relocation expenses. If you have to open up in a temporary location, the costs associated with that while your space is being renovated or rebuilt or cleaned or any of those types of things, it potentially could cover that. Training for new employees, or after you reopen, having to hire new employees that weren't with you before the disaster occurred. Money that would be necessary in order to train them, to get them up to speed so that you could actually begin to generate the types of profits that you were generating prior to when the disaster came into place. It could provide coverage for government shutdowns, which is very important now because many of us around the country are operating in states where if you're not an essential business and categorized as an essential business by either your state or local governments, your business is being closed by government regulation. Sometimes your business interruption insurance will actually cover those losses. What should I do then? What would be the next step? Man, I didn't even think about this. Well, step one, let's review your insurance policies. So to the extent that you have a lawyer or an accountant or an insurance broker that's on your team, you should connect with them immediately to see if in fact you have an insurance policy that might have business interruption coverage. To the extent that you don't have your own policy, meaning you never got a copy of it or you lost it or whatever, that's why you want to contact your broker, your insurance broker, or whoever sold you that policy immediately to see exactly what is in that. Two, we're going to tender, which is just the legal way of saying we're going to put our insurance company on notice of exactly that we've had this disaster, that we want help, we want assistance. Because remember, we've been paying for this. We've been paying the premiums associated with the business interruption insurance, those of us that have this policy, and it's time for them to actually step up. And then you need to follow up with them. So it's not just sufficient for you to send an email. These things don't just magically happen when you're dealing with insurance companies. You got to be persistent. Okay, you got to be. Sometimes you have to be aggressive with insurance companies to get them to do the right thing, to get them to actually honor their commitments. Right? That it's very easy for you to pay your premiums and for them to take your premiums, but you got to be consistent and persistent on getting them to cover. And then if all else fails and you just start getting nowhere, you're getting roadblock after roadblock, contact your lawyer. Your lawyer, often a letter or a strident demand to your insurance company will actually get them up and doing something in connection with that. So I hope this was helpful for you. Remember, this is not to guarantee that you will have any particular result or outcome, but it's more for you to think about potential things that you might have in place that you never thought about. So I would encourage you, get with your team, get with your lawyer, see if you actually do have an insurance policy that might cover the disaster that we're going through right now and provide you some much needed relief. Hope this was helpful for you. Be well, be safe, and talk to you next time.